Hey everyone, this is Shane here with Echo Soundworks, and in this video, I'm going to show you how you can make your drums louder by making them quieter. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but that's exactly what we'll be looking at in this video. So there's different ways to measure loudness, and if you've ever had this song and dance happen to you, let's say you're trying to mix your kick drum or your snare or your clap, and basically you turn it up, now it's too loud. You turn it down and it's just not sitting right in the mix. And so you're basically turning up, turning it down, turning up, turning it down, hoping to find this perfect little pocket for it to live in, and you never do. And then you never finish that track and you want to stop producing. And so that's ever happened to you. More than likely what's going on is that there's an imbalance with the perceived loudness of the sample that you're using and the transient information or the transient peak or level or loudness. So I don't want to go into too much detail about loudness and how it's measured, but just know when you look at the meter in your track and your DAW, for instance, and this is pretty much every DAW, it's concerned with peak loudness. When you go over 0 decibels, you're clipping, you're in the red, you're peaking, right? That's the phrases that you'll hear thrown out all the time in the production community. Now there's a whole other type of loudness called perceived loudness, and that's measured in a variety of different ways. 2 common ones that you'll hear about is RMS, root mean squared, and LUFS, L-U-F-S. Basically, that tries to look at loudness not as just as how quickly something explodes from 0 to 100, but kind of take into consideration how humans hear and how we perceive things to be loud or quiet. So let's take a look at this now. All right, well, how do you do this? Well, you use what's called a soft clipper or a hard clipper. And I'm going to show you with a drawing I'm very proud of. I made a kind of a saw wave. I don't even know what this is. And we're going to look at this with something other than a DAW and an oscilloscope. So basically, a soft clipper, you set an output ceiling, meaning if audio is detected to go past that level, it starts to clip. Literally think about like scissors trimming or shaving off part of the audio. So here's where we peak right here. Now, if I go and take an eraser tool to this and I shave off part of this peak here, we've now soft clipped the sound, or hard clipped depending on how hard I do this, right? So what your DAW will do if you do something like a crazy amount of hard clipping and you set the ceiling quite low in terms of the input and output of the sample you're running into it, you might get something like this. What your DAW then does is it goes, well, we can't have this gap in the audio. It fills in the audio with something that looks like a kind of a straight line like this. And if you do that and you zoom in on the audio waveform for your source material, you'll notice that a lot of the peaks in the audio, they have this kind of flat top. So it reduces that peak volume I was talking about, and then it's going to allow you to get things to sit right better in the mix. Let's look at how when you take a sine wave and you hard clip the hell out of it, it basically turns it into a square wave. All right, so we have a sine wave loaded into Serum. Sounds like this. And I have an oscilloscope right here, which will show you the visualization of the waveform. So there's our sine wave, right? I'm playing it low just so it plays a little bit slower, so you can see the sine wave a little bit clear. So if I turn my drive up in my clipper and I go from soft to hard, check this out. It's basically a square wave now. All right, so now we're gonna take a look at a real world example. So I was working on a demo for Voxa for Serum. Now, a lot of you have been asking on Instagram when I'm gonna release this. The answer is soon, very, very soon. I know I say that a lot, but it really is pretty much done. It's over 400 presets, and this is one of the pads from it. But that's not why we're here. We're here for drums and loudness. So take a listen to this demo. Basically, I had to use this exact same technique to get the snare to fit into this demo that we're going to look at on a hand clap and a snap. All right, so this snare right here is going to be included in one of our other packs that we're working on. And basically, I like to test out each of the snares, the claps that we make, and I like to put them into an actual track. And if I have a hard time working with them, I think, well, does it just sound like shit? Or is there something wrong with the sample, like too much transient information, over compressed, whatever it might be? And I realized this one had a little bit too much transient information, so I ran it through a soft clipper. Now that's the same thing we'll be doing with this kind of unedited sample that I recorded today. It's a mix of, I believe, me clapping lightly and a finger snap. Let's take a quick listen to this. Yeah, so it's just a finger snap. Now, finger snaps and claps are a real great tool to show you this technique because they're just super transient heavy and there's not really any like body to a finger snap. So what we're gonna do is we're going to take note of the peak loudness. Right, so it's peaking at unity on the left. It's a stereo sound, so it's not perfectly the same left and right, but it's peaking on the left about unity. Now compare this with the snare that's in the actual track. If we solo this, right? So this is peaking at -7.3 and it sounds way louder. Right, that's because there's just more to the sound. It's not a one-to-one comparison. It has a body and a tail and all that. But what we're gonna do is we're going to use a soft clipper or a hard clipper to bring out more of this and shave down that transient, because this would be a sound that'd be very hard to get to fit into the mix because that's all transient. So to do this, I'm gonna use a tool in Logic called Fat Effects. It has a soft clipper down here at the bottom and a hard clipper. We're gonna use a hard clipper just to really drive this point home for this video, but I would never do it to this extent. I'm just doing this to show you so you can see and hear exactly what I'm doing, because I always hate when you watch like a mixing video from someone who's way better at mixing than I am, and they're like, here's what you do, this, and that. Did you hear that? It's magic. And I'm like, I don't hear any difference, but I'm gonna believe you because you have 20 Grammys. So that's why I'm doing kind of a aggressive example here. So here's what it sounds like now. All right, so I'm gonna bounce this in place. All right, you can see it basically squarified the transient. It shaved off this kind of triangular shape that we have here, and now it's just kind of it looks like a bowl cut to me, and it just shaved everything off. So now if we listen to it, it sounds louder, right? But it's not even peaking at unity like this one was. Let's turn this off. Right, so this is how you can achieve louder sounds by turning them down. Now, all right, and to finish things up, let's look at what this sound is doing with another metering tool. We're gonna use LUFS for this. That's another way to measure loudness. I touched on this a little bit in the intro of the video. So if we have this meter up while I play the first version, our stereo LUFS is about -28. Bob is anywhere between -27 and -28. Now here is the one that we ran through the clipper. Right, it's down to about -19. So it's a huge difference. So we have more of a perceived loudness, but we have less of that clipping issue. All right, one last thing I want to touch on quickly. I've mentioned these throughout the video and I wanted to make sure I clarified. So soft clipping versus hard clipping. I might have used the term soft limiting because that's what this Logic plugin calls it, but it's just soft clipping. So see here at the top right-hand corner, I'll zoom in. You can see that there's still a slight curve. And if I crank this clipper shape up, as I approach hard, it gets more and more kind of a straight line or a square, like make it look like a square wave. A hard clipper, that's basically what it's doing. Now there's tons of variations between soft and hard. And there's this one plugin that's really cool. It's free. It's made by Venn Audio. I believe it's VENN Audio. And it has a bunch of different algorithms for different types of clipping. And some work really well with transient heavy sounds. Some work better with more sustained legato sounds. And yeah, you can just play around with it. But just know that you generally don't want to go straight hard clipping unless you're going for a really aggressive sound. Somewhere in the middle will usually do a better job, especially when you're working with things like kicks, snares, and claps. All right, so that's gonna sum up this video. If you guys have any questions or comments, you can post those below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. If you guys aren't subscribed to our channel, you know the drill. Hit that subscribe button. The support really does mean a lot to us. And if you guys haven't ever checked out our website, echosoundworks.com, definitely head on over there. There's a ton of free content, samples, loops, and presets. And of course, there's some premium sound sets and sample packs as well. And lastly, if you guys use Instagram, consider giving us a follow. We run a lot of contests, giveaways, and promotions on that platform. And I think you guys will like what we're doing over there. All right, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.